Hi everyone, nice to see you all here. So today I'm going to be telling you quite a lot about what we've done in Salt and Midnight and all of the nuances that went into this 4.5-year endeavor that we've shared with Compulsion Games. So without further ado, first a word about Onyx, so you know that we aren't full of you-know-what. So Onyx started as an art production and co-development company way back in early 2020. So over the past 5 years, we've been working with the likes of EA, Microsoft, Activision, and a lot of other studios. The company has grown to about 120 staff right now. And we have offices in Europe and Southeast Asia, in particular in Belgrade, in Malaysia, in Singapore, and our latest office is in Tokyo. So let's get into it. The challenge for Compulsion Games when they approached us originally was trying to find a partner that can mix and match with their internal team to achieve the quality and the unique art style that they were looking forward with their game. The challenge that they also had was finding the partner that is able to hit this niche level of quality while also making sure that the partner is scalable. Why? Finding the balance between the two is very difficult in the industry. You can have the most talented 5-person team on the planet, but if that 5-person team can't scale to hit certain criteria and to hit certain level of quality across the board, you won't really get anywhere far. For us, the opportunity was obviously to work shoulder to shoulder with Compulsion, who is one of the most prolific game development companies out there. I don't think they've ever released a bad game. I might be slightly biased, obviously, but hey. As well as to give us an opportunity to test something that we like to call co-development. And before I proceed any further, who here knows what co-development is? Good, one person, excellent. So real quick, co-development is a branch of art production, external development, and outsourcing. The main thing for co-development and how it differentiates from everything else is the fact that we approach every relationship as a partnership. So the stakes are higher, the investment is higher from both developer side and from partner side. However, the results are usually much, much better. The main difference being, again, co-development is a partnership, so it requires investment from both sides. So usually when we enter these types of relationships, the primary question is where to begin. For us, deploying a core team is step number one. We always like to start small. Usually the core teams are consistent of somebody from senior management. Lead artists, senior artists, craft leads, technical artists, IT administrators, anything that you might need to really set up a new pipeline and to start understanding what the task is at hand. We like our core teams to stay along on the project for its entirety. So when we onboard new staff with the goal of understanding what the project is and how the client operates, what their culture is, they are usually the ones who then distribute that knowledge to the rest of the team. When we start scaling. As a company, we are fans of scaling slow and steady. So for us, we've had experiences where we scaled quickly that did not turn out all that well. That is maybe for a different panel on what not to do in game art. But for the purposes of Compulsion's engagement, we started with a team of 5, and over the span of 2 years, capped that team at about 40-ish. The main thing for sustainable growth and scaling is to ensure that the foundation is there. Foundation is the key to success. If the foundation is built on sand, the relationship will almost certainly break down before it even started. When we have established the foundation, now the next logical step is to establish a clear feedback loop for both sides. Now this is very important. This is one of the things that really differentiates co-development approach to anything else. It's being able to, for the client to tell us what we're doing wrong, which is usual, but also for us to tell the client what they're doing wrong, which is not so usual. The common thing in the industry is for partners to be very much afraid to speak their minds, to feel like they're basically like deer in headlights or on thin ice. And for a proper partnership to be formed and for success to be ensured, we do need to make sure that the communication is as transparent and is as candid as humanly possible. We've had more than one conversation that was not very comfortable at the time, but it ended up being something that really paid dividends in the long run. So our approach, we have 4 key elements that we're targeting, which is a deep understanding of client team and their goals. Without understanding what a project is and just going in blindsided, you are basically gambling. We are assuming that what we think the project is will turn into what it should be, and it rarely is like that. We invest usually 3 to 6 months at the beginning of each relationship to really understand what the goal of the project is, what the client's company culture is, and how can we best integrate our team into it. Building predictability, so nobody likes to receive an email out of the blue on Friday evening that says, hey, this is completely different to what we were expecting to get. So predictability equals trust, and trust equals us being able to do a lot more than what we anticipated and to get a much higher level of access to the project than we would in any other scenario. It is one of the 4 key pillars of a successful coder relationship. Thoughtful scalability. Again, now we're circling back to scalability, and I'll share a bit more light on that down the line. But for us, ensuring that the right personnel with right qualities are placed in the right places is paramount. Because we have a very flat structure when we work both internally and with our clients. Each of our team members is capable of talking to each of the client's team members. That is the only way how we can achieve a proper co-development dynamic where everybody feels like they're an integrated part of the team. Without that integration and without thoughtful scalability, you will get mismatches in staff, you will get mismatches in company values and culture, and again, we are setting ourselves up for failure. And probably the most important cornerstone out of these 4 is the flat communication structure. Now, a lot of companies in our sector like to basically have 20 people that all report to one person, and then that one person reports to another person on client side, and that one person on client side reports to 20 people. So there is a massive bottleneck in the middle. We don't do that. We prefer to enable everybody who is working on our team to basically interact daily with the counterparts on the client side and on the partner side. And that, even though it is creating a lot of overheads for management, for communications, for making sure that nobody got into a fight with somebody else, and that has happened, it also ensures that the integration of an external partner is as seamless as can be. The partners are integrated to the level that they basically feel like they're working for the same company, which is the only true way how this type of relationship can succeed. So, the benefits. A natural yet linear extension of client team. The clients never really feel like they're working with an external company. They feel like they have an extension of their team. What does that mean? It means that we can have 50 people in this room, 20 of which can be client's core team, 30 of which can be Onyx staff or some other company staff, doesn't matter. And nobody could really tell the difference. That is the core principle of co-development. That is what we're trying to achieve, and that is what we've been successful at in South to Midnight, which I'm really happy to say, because we weren't sure if we were going to be successful when we started. Knowledge retention in this particular model is off the charts. There is a limit as to how much you can actually put information on documentation, on Confluence, and whatnot. We've established that there is a lot of tribal knowledge, in Compulsion in particular, that we really wanted to make sure that all of our team members understood, so that each and every one of them in their respective crafts could give 100%. And once the project actually wraps up, that knowledge stays with the team. It doesn't go anywhere. Probably one of the most overlooked benefits of this entire approach, but also one of the most valuable ones, is the shared investment in ownership. when people care about the project that they're creating, they are actually going to give you much more than you would expect. It's not a transaction, it's an investment. It's an investment of character, it's an investment of time, it's an investment of passion. We're all in a creative industry, so it's safe to assume that in our creative industries we will be requiring to put in our heart and soul, and that rarely happens. So for the type of an engagement that we were looking at with Compulsion, the shared investment was absolutely paramount. And future-proofing. So real quick, it basically means that when we hit a milestone or when Compulsion decides to launch a new game, it's very simple for them to come to us and say, hey, guys, you've done such an amazing job with this. Let's kick off the next one. And it's basically instantaneous. There's very little upfront cost involved. So what has all of this resulted in? When we originally kicked off the Compulsion engagement, the primary things we were looking for to do was basically to create the entire game's biome, so all of the vegetation, all of the foliage, everything else. And it was a very good introduction to the game's art style. It's not a common thing for a studio to come in and create all of the vegetation for a title. Usually it's split either between internal teams or external teams. When we started, it was presented to us in a way that it would be our ownership and it would be our job to make sure that it looks as good as humanly possible. So no pressure, right? I'm happy to say that the initial investment phase in actually learning the ins and outs of the project and learning the ins and outs of the culture and Compulsion's very unique art style really paid dividends in the long run, because it allowed us to actually switch over to level art and lighting, which is where co-development really shines and which is where we had probably one of the biggest impacts that we've ever had as a company on a game. I think, don't take this for granted, but I think we've touched about 2/3 of the content in the game in some way, shape, or form, either through full-on level art creation, lighting for levels, obviously the entire game's vegetation. So there is no frame in the game that doesn't have an Onyx footprint on it in one way or another, which is pretty cool, and it doesn't happen that often. So when it comes to lighting in particular for the game, we've had a very fruitful collaboration between our lighting artists and Compulsions. Both lighting and level art are very iterative processes. It's not like you're getting an Excel list and saying, oh, okay, so we need to do this, this, and this. It's a much more fluid dynamic. It requires a lot more back and forth, and it's a very creative dynamic. So for lighting in particular, the fact that we've had flat communication from the start and that our lighting artists and Compulsion lighting artists felt like they were working in the same office, albeit remotely, proved invaluable to achieving both the visual fidelity as well as actually making the game run decently well. And ultimately, we've been able to touch upon VFX as well, which was pretty cool in its own right. The most interesting thing for VFX for this game is the fact that we've actually been able to work on hero-level VFX for Hazel, the main protagonist of the game. It's something that almost never happens. Hero-level VFX both for the main protagonist as well as for all of the boss fights and key level events. All of those things usually happen internally within a studio because nobody wants to give up ownership of that. Everybody wants to say, oh, this is the, the key level VFX that we've done. We want to do this internally. We were fortunate enough for Compulsion to trust us with everything that we've done up until this point, that they said, you know what, we already feel like you're part of the internal team. Do you want to tackle this as well? And we were more than happy to oblige. So I talked earlier on about the importance of being able to scale, and to scale smartly, and when scaling to actually touch upon the importance of putting the right people in the right places. We've actually trialed Onyx Academy as a concept for South and Midnight in particular. And Onyx Academy, really quickly, is our production bootcamp. It's used as a school to train all of our internal staff, as well as to give back something to the community. It's completely free, no strings attached as of right now. And how it works and how it used to work for South and Midnight in particular was we have our internal staff members, so the leads who would go off and during their normal working hours work on South and Midnight. Then they would come back and then they would teach the staff what they've learned. That allowed us to scale the team immensely quickly through identifying talent directly in the pool, placing the talent directly onto the projects, and ultimately, through flat communication and a very open partnership structure, receiving feedback on staff, receiving feedback on talent, receiving feedback on our curriculum, and adjusting the flow as we went along. It was probably one of the smartest things we've ever done, if I'm being honest, because every single person from Academy that was ever placed onto either Compulsion or any other project for that matter has excelled precisely because they were taught by the same people who are the most up to speed on what the demands are. The fact that the Academy is free also means that the only people who stay through the entire 6-month duration of the course are the people who are truly interested in what it is there to learn, not the people who paid for something and felt like they are obliged to stay there because they gave money for it. So, win-win. And ultimately, there is no better way how to summarize the relationship than the quote from Compulsion's lead producer on what the relationship was like, what they experienced working with us over the past 4.5 years, and how they feel about us in total. So, yeah. That was a very short, very concise version of South and Midnight, how we went about, what the goals were, how we achieved them, and how the client feels about us, which is kind of the most important thing at the end of the day. So, QA. If anybody is raising their hands, I don't see because of the lights, so feel free to shout. No? Everybody understood everything? Awesome.